So our next fireside chat, we have Jesus Manta, our high-tech board, and Amir Hussein. And they will be talking to us about, one second. Is it on the, we're gonna give you guys 30 seconds, right? I'm sorry, I'm moving a little fast here. I'm just thinking about the time. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna have an entrepreneurship panel. We have Jesus Montes, our high-tech vice chair, and Amir Hussein, chairman, Worldwide Foundry and founder of Argon Metronics. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you for letting me back in the house. I don't know, like some of you look new and you don't know who I am, but for the rest of you that know that, it's great to actually come back and get to spend a little bit of time with you guys, with someone that I admire, and he's a great friend, and you guys are gonna get to love him here in the next 40 minutes. So, but first of all, how's the day so far? Is it good? Are there any consultants in the house? You're a retired consultant like me. We don't bill by the hour anymore. So. Okay, you guys, are you making up your billable hours for the time you're here? You know, I'm gonna get a call on that. Who here is from software? Okay, who here is from systems? Everybody else, like, where are you from? Like, the company hasn't changed that much in a year. No, it's great. It's great. I just want to get going on this. So we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. Omar and I were talking about this the other day when I said I actually want to do a discussion on entrepreneurship. And he's like, but you know, it's like all of these people work on a big company. And I said, exactly. Because I think we are living in a golden moment for entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is probably one of the best skills that we can have right now to change. Oh, it doesn't work? How about if I do this? Oh, it doesn't. It does? Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah, this one. So, but this one, you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, so this is just kind of like, no, this one is for the virtual. I have like 3 microphones. You know, good luck getting AI to work if we cannot get microphones to go. Anyway, this is better? Oh, so that's why you were not responding my questions. It wasn't because of the questions, you couldn't hear me. So we wanted to have this discussion on entrepreneurship because I think it's a golden moment. I'm going to give you a couple of statistics and then introduce Amir, who is like, it embodies what that entrepreneurship and that moment right now is. But it's exactly the set of skills and set of experiences that we need to reinvent what we do in large corporations. So this entrepreneurship moment is as relevant for creating the 1 person, 1 billion company as it is to transform a company like IBM. So let me give you, before I give you some statistics, let me give you a little bit on Amir. So Amir and I have known each other for over a decade. I'm a super fan of him. He's a very well-known Austin-based tech entrepreneur. He is a well-known author. He's published at least 3 books that I know of and probably thousands of papers that I don't know of. He founded Spark Combination, became one of the few unicorns in Austin. He was bored, so then he founded SkyGrid. He became the chairman of Worldwide Foundry, which is founding 100 other companies. And he's the author of The Sentient Machine, Hyperwar, pretty relevant now, but he wrote that a long time ago, and The Cybernetic Society, which is his latest book. So Amir, welcome.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Jesus.
Why don't we start with, you know this, but I'm going to read this just for everybody here. So just in the last 3 months, 1.56 million new businesses have been created in the United States. That is 25% more year to year. So a ton of new businesses are being created. The monthly pace of creating new businesses has gone up by 435% in the last 2 decades. And solo founders, so companies founded by a single person, used to be about a fourth of the companies, and now is over a third. So 36% of the companies are a solo founded, a big increase of that. Most of it fueled by the insane capabilities that having AI gives you. I'd love for you to give us a little bit of your immigrant journey, because many of our journeys is very similar to that. But then also tell us about your entrepreneurship journey, like the then and now, the time and the effort and the capital that it took you to create a company 10 years ago, and what it takes now to do that.
The early part of the journey is simple, and I can accelerate that. There's really a couple of things to pay attention to there. I was born in Lahore, Pakistan, and my first exposure to a computer was a Commodore 64 at the age of 4. And at that point, I knew that I had fallen in love, and the rest of my life became a quest to uncover more and more layers of meaning that this machine seemed to possess. And to this day, that is sort of the endeavor, the core endeavor in life. So there is one thing to say about that, which is that at the age of 4, there was no concern of commercialism in my mind. It was pure joy. It was pure interest. It was pure passion. And due to good fortune and my parents, that passion was sustained over the years and grew to something quite serious. My first paper that was published in an IEEE transaction, so a serious, transaction in the US, was published when I was 15 or 16 years old on artificial intelligence. I published another paper the next year, and so on and so forth. So the interest had taken a hold of me. So the point about my early childhood that I share with many of you who might be parents, maybe some grandparents, is that even with my own kids, what I've discovered is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And there's a flip side, which is also very beautiful about that, which is that if you give children the time to find their passions, you don't have to worry about anything else. Neither of my parents, they were extremely encouraging, they were science-minded, but they weren't computer scientists. And still, I figured out a way. And I was not unique. I was not singular in any way. In 8th grade, I decided I went to a very fine private school that my father and my grandfather had gone to. And in 8th grade, I decided that it was just too boring. I couldn't get to computer science quickly enough. So I told my father that, I ought to drop out. And he was quite shocked. And he said, well, dropping out in the 8th grade, that seems a little extreme. And I said, well, listen, I will do my O and A levels, which was the equivalent sort of a high school, certificate plus 1 year of college. I'll do that on my own, and I'll do that independently, but I can't wait to get to college because that's where they teach computer science. So he took me to the principal, and, I'm talking Hogwarts, the black flowing robes and, achingly beautiful campus. And I'm taken to the principal's office and he says, what problem might the boy have? And my father says, well, he's thinking of dropping out of school. So the principal said, all right, well, perhaps me and the boy can go off on a jaunt here in the gardens. And in about 20-30 minutes, if I've convinced him, then it's his word that he'll stay. And if he convinces me, then good luck to him. So we came back after 25 minutes and I had a smile on my face and the principal did not. And I therefore left school, took my O levels in a year, took my A levels. And at the age of 15, I joined college. So I got my first bachelor's degree when I was 17. I came to the US, and this is the second point, which is very important because, as Jesus says, many of our audience are immigrants, which is that there's this narrative about immigrants that immigrants are running away from something. Oh, so terrible, so bad. The reason why immigrants are here is because wherever they're from, it's miserable and they couldn't help but to come here. So whatever is done to them here, it's got to be better than whatever they were running away from. I'm not saying everybody says that. I'm not saying that maybe even is the majority view, but it is a pretty common view. And to the extent that this is used to sort of demean people from other places. And in my case, I actually suffered more hardship when I got here. In my particular situation, my family was very well off. When I came to Texas, I knew zero people. TWA lost both my bags. I was without clothes for 90 days. I got robbed in the first week. So, I wasn't really running away from anything. I instead was running to something. And that's something very important for us to understand. If you're not running away from something and you're running to something, what about America is that thing that you run to? And in my case, it was the intellectual application that was possible for me as a 17-year-old. The idea that if there was one place in which I could go build the future with my own hands, it would be the United States of America. As long as smart people, kids, boys, girls, aspire to being part of American society because they believe this is the best platform that will allow them the ability to define and build the future, we have nothing to worry about. But when I look around today and I travel a lot and I talk to smart kids all over the world, and the situation all over the world continues to improve, the relative power levels between, what we used to call first world and third world, and all that's changing. And again, I'll remind you, not everyone that comes to America runs from something. Some people that come to America come because there is a university here, a department here, a great research lab at IBM. There's a Bacchus Noor form being discovered somewhere, and a kid grew up just admiring that place that could come up with BNF, as an example. Or is so into databases that they think of this as the holy of holies, where they want to come and see what environment created databases. So I would say, number one, passion, which is a carrier through the rest of your life. Number two, the misconception around why people come. And number three, the conclusion of it, which is that a society that wants to continue to be the inventor of the future must then retain these generous characteristics of being open to people with great flighty minds that may do the next big thing that our own intellect has not yet discovered. So I'll just say that about my...
That's a great framing. And now let's fast forward to Spark Cognition. I don't know if it's your first, but it's your maybe best known company.
So I joined UT Austin. I was in grad school. And then, of course, the old dropping out of school habit. So I had one degree from UT Austin. I was working towards my PhD. I dropped out again, but this time it was to start a company. And there was a venture investor, actually now a very dear friend, the then CTO of Compaq Computer, and Compaq was then the world's largest computer company. Many of you will remember. He came to my 300 square foot student dorm, got a demo of a system that I'd built, put his hand around my back, patted my back, and said, "You'll have $1 million on the bank tomorrow." So I dropped out. and started that company, ran it for 2 years, and sold it. Now, by this time, the dot-com bust had already happened, so it was tough. I did another company that was acquired at a very early stage. And then finally, in 2013, we started Spark Cognition. I was the sole founder, and my background, again, like I mentioned, since the age of 15, I was deeply passionate about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence had become sort of kind of like Voldemort, the word that must not be said, because it had gone through so many winters, and people thought that it was some, juju fairy magic, and anyone that mentioned artificial intelligence as part of their product stack was trying to sell a bill of goods. So we had to be very, very careful. But of course, I have been a believer in artificial intelligence, and in many ways, I feel that the ultimate manifestation of the final computer is the artificially intelligent computer. And this aspiration goes back millennia, not just years and decades. But anyhow, at Spark Cognition, we built the first industrial AI company in Austin, really in the US. And it also became the first industrial AI unicorn out of Austin, Texas. I ran it as CEO for 10 years. We grew it to a $1.4 billion valuation. Along the way, we partnered with Boeing, and I became CEO of a joint venture with Boeing called SkyGrid, which was designed to apply artificial intelligence to deconflict potentially millions of drones in the sky with commercial traffic. After running it for 4 years, I hired my replacement there, the head of autonomy from Honeywell. Boeing last year bought the company, so that was good. With Spark Cognition, again, I hired my replacement about nearly 3 years ago now. And now this is where we stand. So I've caught you up with the story, and then we can talk about the future.
So, I mean, I don't know what you guys have heard, but I remember the Hogwarts principle, the habit of dropping out, and AI is the name that must not be said. So, it took. Remember what I mean? You've created all of these companies, and being an entrepreneur, you and I were talking before this. There is this misconception about how how nice and how beautiful and how great the picture is and how great is to put in LinkedIn, I'm a founder. But the reality is insane hard work and a lot of disappointment. Compare what it was then being an entrepreneur, creating those companies, to what now you're seeing as the chairman of Wellcome Foundry. And you're already in the 8th, I think, of 100 companies. So how different was it to create a company 10 years ago versus today?
I'll tell you a couple of ways in which it was different, and a couple of ways in which I don't think it'll ever be different. The couple of ways in which it was different was that when my first company, Curion, we needed to run a server because it was web-based technology. So there was a white label shop here in town that used to sell computers. And I went there and I bought 2 computers, assembled them, put them together, and then got a cable modem connection, got a fixed IP in my apartment. That was my data center. At that time, Exodus did not exist. And if anybody is familiar with the history of how data centers have evolved, Exodus was quite a moment. So I hosted it myself. And then when we got funded, I thought, all my problems were solved, because the laptops that I had to use, needed to be a powerful laptop. And at that time, the Dell Inspiron, which was this thick, and I still have it in my collection just to remind me of where we've come from. This thick, yay big, hugely heavy, was Inspiron 7500 was the model number. It cost $5,500 in those dollars, $1998, $99. That was per developer. Now, we used to develop on top of Microsoft Windows, and we paid $4,500 for a Visual Studio license. So before you could do a darn thing, you had a computer and a license, and you were $10,000 in $1998. But then you needed to run this, right? And you needed to have some data store. So we had an Oracle license because there was no MySQL. And the Oracle license, from what I remember, was $50,000 for a company our size. And then the JRun license, which was the Java Alert JRun, was the application server. That license was also tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm telling you about like the basics. This is per developer. Okay. So we also had a VSS license because there was no Git. So you had to pay for source control. So that whole scheme of the day was extremely expensive, even for software enablement. And because it was so expensive, the number of people that could get into it was very limited. And because the number of people that could get into it was very limited, there was no hope of people taking software and great libraries and stuff like that and just open sourcing them, which is why Linux then and some of the free GNU tools were really an outlier. Now open source is not the outlier. It's pretty much the model. Fast forward to when I started Spark Cognition. So 99, I just gave you the snapshot. Now let's fast forward to 2013. In 2013, the laptop M3800 was the first laptop that I bought for Spark Cognition that I was doing work on. And that was about $3,000, so considerably cheaper. There was no question of doing any model building on your own GPUs. It just, the software technology wasn't there, the hardware technology wasn't there. We came to Ravi Aramili, you remember him, at IBM? And we said, hey, Ravi, could you cut us a deal on a Power 8 system? And so we got a Power 8 system, and then we took it with us, and it was very impressive in how it ran. But then Ravi told us that the software ecosystem support on this thing is pretty, not that huge. So whatever you do, you'll have to do on your own. So we had to make up for the low price of the hardware that we were getting on this deal by doing a lot of custom software development. It was still very expensive. Developer salaries were high, and they kept getting higher and higher and higher through COVID. So the cost of developing anything became extremely tough. Now, our aspiration is that several of these 100 companies out of the World Quant Foundry portfolio, and Zaib is here in the audience, she runs our family office. She's made 30 plus investments, many of which have turned out to be unicorns, early investments that she made. One in a robotics company, Aptronic, which is now over 5 billion, numerous others in rocket, space, and brain-computer interface companies. And what we see across this whole universe of companies, including our own, is it's very possible for one or two guys to build $1 billion company now. There's no $5,500 for a license of Visual Studio. VS Code today is free, or your other IDs are free. So I wanted to get this granular because a lot of times people say, oh, it's better now or it's worse now, or etc. I've been there through these 3 seasons, and I just want to remind everybody that there was an actual bill you had to pay. And the money that you raised very rapidly went straight to software licenses.
So now the main constraint to build a unicorn is an amazing idea and the commitment to just go build it.
What is that?
No, I'm asking you. So when you actually look at creating a company right now, you basically have so much support at such a low cost that the actual constraint, like the constraint before, to your point, is if you didn't have that pat in the back and the $1 million in the bank, you were not creating the company. Then maybe the million became $500,000, but you still needed to have like the developers and the place and all of that. Today, the constraint is, what is that great idea that serves a purpose or solves a problem better than anybody else can do it? And if you can have that idea and focus on the tools, you can build it with almost no capital, or at least the initial version of it with almost no capital and no people.
Completely agree. So The question then is if that's our working theory, that with artificial intelligence tools, you can basically do it, maybe one or two founders can get together and build a real thing and then deploy it, well, then what do you need? So I tell you, the light now shines far more brightly in you as a human being than it ever has. That's the hard part. The easy part is the tools are out there. The hard part is you have no excuse. Uh, so what's happening is that, in my view, because I look at a lot of young CEOs, again, across the portfolio, there's dozens and dozens of CEOs and many people that over the decades worked for me that were brilliant, that went on to become CEOs. You have a similar situation. Is that, bravery is very underrated. I feel that there is a big correlation between old-fashioned, good old bravery and getting things done. I'll give you examples of what I mean by this. Uh, you can get cowered down by circumstance. You can look at the downside of any situation and over-index the downside. You can always be unwilling to pay any price, even if it's a relatively minor price, for an unfortunate outcome that might occur. You might be wanting to put nothing at risk, including your reputation. You've been on LinkedIn so long, you get your average 32 likes a post, and if you fail, then it'll go down to 9 likes, and then what? And so those types of things hold people back for real, for real. Um, and you can go on and on and on about the things that cause fear, but you cannot be a scared person if you are going to do a company. Number two, everything that you love will be at risk. There are people that end up sideways with their families going through startup experiences. There are people that develop health issues going through startup experiences. There are people that start a business with founders that they love, that they think are their friends, and they end up suing them and wishing for their early demise before the end of the business. There are all kinds of things that actually happen. And to be blind to any of these would be foolish, but to take any of them as fait accompli would also be very pessimistic. And so the bravery is in going into the fray, knowing that there is a lion and a tiger and a bear, and at the same time also knowing that probably the best approach is not to um, invite the lion and the tiger and the bear. And while you're there in an environment of threat, with strategy, with sound mind, with sound advice, with sound, good, high quality decision making, you have to avoid these things and get to the other end. So it is a dynamic problem. It's not a simple problem. It's a multivariate dynamic problem. And the actor that is tuning all these knobs is an emotional being. That right there is the full description of why this is hard. The guy tuning the knobs is not 100% in control of him or herself, and the environment is multivariate complexity. So how good can you get at that? And if you can get good at that, you're a winner.
And I think that is true to be an entrepreneur or to work on a large company or to achieve any goal. Like that is just a way of thinking and a way of working that is valid as intrapreneurship and is valid as entrepreneurship. So we're going to have a little bit of time for questions. So while you guys are thinking of the questions, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your latest book, The Cybernetic Society.
So the Cybernetic Society is a book that just came out just a few months ago. And it's a very serious book. So the seriousness of it is that my project in that book was to synthesize everything I've learned across technology and building companies across my global exposure and policy making exposure with various governments all over the world, and my interaction with the military and theorists, and taking all of this and synthesizing this as a framework that it's a model. Like many of us in computer science, we build models and then we say, okay, where will this model go? So the book is about this idea of man and machine symbiosis, not in the sense of, implants and things like that necessarily, even though that might happen, but more in the sense of no system, no process on earth being done by one or the other. That man and machine are intertwined with almost every process. And that gives rise to complexity. And there's a lot to learn from, for example, the theory of cliodynamics, which talks about it's a science-based projection of how societies crumble. And there's a professor here in the US that has the largest database where he's analyzed what causes societies to crumble. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because you got to buy the book and read it. But in there are those types of sort of deeper messages that you won't generally get in a popular science book. There's also, the theory of scaling laws. And that shows you how systems scale in the real world. So, I don't want to say more. If I hadn't written it, I would have probably bought it. It's an interesting book.
Can we go? Questions?
Can I hold it too? Got it. Okay. Thank you for the panel. Really, really good topic and our extremely uncertain days. So we're getting these two views that the job apocalypse is coming. There'll be unprecedented level of job displacement, and there's the other opposite where it's like, no, don't worry, there will be new jobs created, and we're going to outsource all the menial tasks. And I guess we'll all be out there splitting the atoms. Can you give us a framework to navigate what's ahead of us in terms of uncertainty across industries and across tasks? You already talked about the lion, the tiger, and the bear. Don't go straight at them. Think strategically, but just a couple of double clicks. Like, how do we think about the moment that we're on?
It's one of my favorite questions because it allows me to talk a little bit about numbers, and it allows me to talk a little bit about philosophy, which is human agency. I'll come to both here in a second. So let's say that you want to answer this question, but not based on somebody's just seat of the pants opinion. You want some rationalization that satisfies you as you ask that question. So the place that I would recommend is you go to OPM, which is the government website that shows you all of the classes of jobs in the US. And they keep updating this all the time. Last time I went there, and I'll be off by a little bit because they keep changing, but 4 million-ish truck drivers, male, in the US. Okay, that's the largest profession for males. The largest profession for females is executive assistant, of which there are 2.5 million. And you go down that list, and very quickly you'll find a big chunk of US employment. So now the question is, you go look at another chart which talks about where AI is going and what types of problems AI will solve. 5 years, 7 years, will trucks be driving themselves? Yes. 5 to 7 years, will Claude and Claude desktop, etc., get so smart that very few executive assistants will be needed? Yes, for sure. So now the second question is, well, but skills retraining. Why wouldn't you go to talk to a truck driver and have them become a quantum physicist? Well, the problem with that is that somebody who has given their due to society and is, let's say, 55 years old, and they never claimed to be a politician, they never claimed to be Socrates, they were just a responsible citizen, living a good life, paying their dues to society. From their standpoint, if you go tell them that 3 years before you were about to retire, I want you to become a quantum physicist. It's not going to happen. So that is the classic example of the person involved not having done anything wrong. They just did exactly what we told them. And a societal shift coming about, which in the grand scheme of things may be beneficial for the country, but it creates an unbridgeable gap for an individual or for a cadre of people with no ability to bridge that on their own. And this, to me, defines the role of the state. So the question is, can the state intervene in some ways? I don't have enough time to tell you. There are lots of people who've thought about how exactly that could be done. And maybe there are many other reasons, that you could sort of manage that. But my point is just that this is the fundamental realization. You can look at the numbers, you can then look at the technology that's replacing those numbers. You can then ask a question, who is at fault? No one's at fault. What does the state do? The state provides a cushion. If the state can provide a cushion after a calamity, a weather calamity, why not this? Okay. The more important piece, perhaps. So my answer really is yes, that is coming. The job disruption is coming. I am a firm believer that all this stuff about, oh, but won't AI create more jobs? Yes, it will for a short period of time, but ultimately, when you train when you've built every other machine, you've essentially perfected the human muscle. Now you are perfecting the mental muscle. And the human only has two things, the mental muscle and the physical muscle. Both gone, good luck. I think there's
That's the positive. That's the positive part of the message.
the
Just wait to hear the negative.
so the downside of that message is no. The downside of that message for machines is that machines can't be given a responsibility because you can't beat a machine, you can't fine a machine, you can't sanction a machine, you can't threaten a machine, you can't take its money and run, it doesn't care, right? You can't give a bonus to a machine, it doesn't care. So all the levers that we've invented since the dawn of man don't really work with a machine, and therefore the incentives can never align other than in technical terms, and therefore ownership can never really be given to a machine. So there will be some small numbers of let's just say people's role will be ownership escrow services. I am one entrepreneur. I have on my phone right now somewhere on the range of 350 agents that are doing things for me. And each one of them has a name and a role, and they have reports that they're sending me even now. And I'm one person. So my job is just that if any one of them messes up, I'm the ownership escrow guy. Because they don't have insurance policies, they don't have DNO liability. But still, that's very few people, right? That job is not for everyone, the ownership guy. So now the other part of this is, why is this a problem? Because I think what technology has given us is something that no one ever talks about. In the 1950s, the average size of an American home was around 900 feet. The average size of an American family was about 5 people. They were very happy. They all said white picket fence, beautiful home. There was one fridge in the house, maybe sometimes one bathroom. If you've been to the houses from the 50s, it wasn't 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. And the cars that they drove, you've seen those cars, very basic cars. All this extra security, 47 airbags and 92 computers coming out of everything wasn't a thing, right? In fact, even AC was an extra feature, heater was an extra feature. All of them were manual, so they were cheaply built. And the idea was that at any level of income in this country, there should be something that somebody can buy that should solve the problem for them. The problem being get from A to B, have a roof over your head, etc., etc. Today, what we've done is 2 things. We say jobs are leaving. We say we are becoming poorer. We will never be aspirationally where our parents were. And yet the cars that we drive are like, it's sort of live monster truck out on 183, right? And we live in houses that now average 2,600, 2,700 square foot for families that don't want to have any kids. So it's 2 bedrooms for the wife, 2 bedrooms for the husband. Um, and a garage for whoever can fight over it and put their collection in first. The cars outside, 3 of them maybe for 2 people. So, but it's so unpleasant. Look at my employer. I'm not being paid. Look at this government and look at inflation. Everything's so terrible. What I'm giving you are hard numbers. You can please Google them. So the big fallacy in all of this is that parity living conditions that used to be affordable are now not affordable. That is a lie. It is not that parity living conditions are not affordable. It is that our redefined level of conditions with the 62 Netflix and Hulu and Disney and the car now has a Wi-Fi thing that you pay for, and everyone in the family has a phone, and it's a $1,800 iPhone, and the kids need it at 16 or 18 or whatever that might be. And what about some extra Apple AirTags? I mean, there's no end to what you can spend, and everyone needs everything all the time. So to say that we don't have the jobs are going and we don't have the ability, are we being evicted? No.
Oh,
This is Mr. Hussain. This has now become a political speech. And
No.
IBM has decided to evict you.
yeah, there'll be people escorting us out. No, yeah, finish your thought.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, no,
So, but yeah, I mean that's it. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. You got solar panels, you got solar vehicles that are cheap. You've got now systems that you can buy that do hydroponic growing. You've got basically, free entertainment. You've got the ability to communicate with your families for free. And when I say all these things, like I can give you the names of the websites and the places where you can go and do this. I do this all the time. So there is a stack of technologies that in that book, The Cybernetic Society, I call the technologies of freedom. And it's not like one of those, sort of Viva la technologies of freedom flag in red. It's an actual list of things you can go download or buy one time, and you're not paying fees to anyone, and you can live a better life. But none of us want to do it. None of us want to do it. But it's the land of the free.
so reset of expectation is coming, and there's going to be a need for the state to somehow intervene and provide the cushion. This is your view.
I mean, the better.
Yeah, the alternative will not be kind for the state either.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
Awesome. So sorry we couldn't get to your question, but we will try to get everybody kind of like links to everything that we mentioned, do by the book. And Amir,
the cybernetic
society.
The cybernetic society.
As Zaib, he didn't say that, but Amir married Zaib. She's the one that doesn't drop off in the family. So.
She's also very, very optimistic about most things, which is sort of, the balance that has allowed me to essentially stay out of trouble. So
Awesome. Amir, thank you very much.